Hey everyone, it's John from Mayo Bros, and today I want to take you through a guided full body stretch routine. This is fantastic for building flexibility and helping you prevent injuries. This is actually a sample of our Primal Intuition 12-week coaching program. So if you like the video and you want to learn more, just check out the description for more information. Let's dive right into this. Okay, welcome to week 5, module 3, the full body stretch routine. We're going to start in the kneeling position, and then we'll play around with some kneeling tucks as well. So, in the video, we're going to spend 1 minute on each stretch, but you can spend 90 seconds or 2 minutes if you really want to get maximum results. So this kneeling position for a lot of people, I know for myself, and I think you too, Brad, used to be challenging. Even hanging out in this position, and you might find that for yourself right now.
Yes, it definitely wasn't very enjoyable when I first started doing it, but now it's becoming comfortable.
And you can even take a book or a yoga block and just put it on the tops of your feet if you want to intensify this stretch a little bit. In gymnastics, they call it the kneeling Siza stretch.
Yeah, this is a definite great stretch.
Yeah, it's awesome. Get the tops of the feet involved with that block. And like we said, we're going to use the block a little bit in this video, so you can use a book too, or you can improvise with something else just to elevate yourself a bit. Now we're going to switch into the seated pike. So first I'm going to grab the tops of my feet, and of course, just go as far as you can. It's going to take a while to progress, but just stay consistent with it. And then I'm going to point my feet, start to fold over, and just find some comfort in these stretches. I'm going to elevate the feet there just to intensify it a bit, but just do what's comfortable for you. And when you're getting into these stretches, try to not fidget. Try to just be in that uncomfortable space and just let gravity do its job and sink you in. Like we mentioned, it can be important to, find movement in stretches, but there's also value to, just hanging out. I was getting some Charlie horses there in my hip flexors. That's why I was moving there.
Yeah. You may find that happening to you too.
So yeah, and now we're going to switch over to, we're going to get in a kneeling lunge position. So I'm going to show you both angles here. But for this side, I'm going to go head on. So just push forward. Try to drive that hip forward and keep that front leg at about 90 degrees, and try to keep the chest nice and upright. I'm going to reach up just to intensify that hip flexor stretch, and then I'm actually going to reach back and grab that foot. Now this might be challenging for you, it might not. It takes a little bit of balance, but we're actually grabbing that foot, and then we're getting a little bit of a quad stretch too. So you can play with both variations of this, whatever works for you. Try to have try to keep that collarbone broad when you're doing this. Just keep it nice and upright. Stretch the quad, lean in, still engaging that hip flexor stretch. And try to just not fidget as best you can. Now I'll show you on the other side. Spending a minute total on each side here. So get in the position and just lean forward, front leg at about 90 degrees, pushing that back hip forward. Try to feel that hip flexor stretch.
This one is super important, especially if you're sitting a lot during the day. It's really good to get those hips opened up because they're super tight after a long day of sitting.
Yeah, we spend so much time in hip flexion that it's important to also extend them. So I'm just reaching up again there, just to intensify it a bit. And then I'm going to grab that back foot and just pull it in. You can use a wall too for this, or you can just kind of grab the foot and lean forward. It's a really great prehab for the knees. This is often called the Prehab Lunge, and it's phenomenal for, lower body bulletproofing. It can hurt. I remember the first time I tried this, I was like, holy crap, cramps everywhere. Now we're going to get into elevated cat. So with straight arms, we're just going to find an elevated surface, and we're going to push into that and round that thoracic spine. And just try to get comfy in this position. Again, you can find a little bit of movement. This feels really great on the shoulders and the back, but it can definitely be intense. You know, if you don't have great overhead mobility or flexibility, this will be a little bit of a challenge, but it's a great way to build it in a passive way, because obviously you have full control over how much pressure you're putting on your shoulders and your back. So you can just ease up or put more on as needed.
Yeah, I love this stretch. It's great.
Just really getting those shoulders into flexion. Deep. Oh yeah, just find some comfort. See, certain stretches aren't as hard to not fidget in, but then some are very difficult. Now I'm going to get into an upward facing dog or a seal stretch. And I like to look over my shoulders in the beginning just to really get that hip flexor stretch before I kind of sink in. So I like to look over my shoulder and kind of gaze for the opposite heel. Now I'm going to look towards the sky.
This is another one, if you're a bit more advanced, I like to sometimes put my hands on a yoga block to really get a bit more elevation.
Yeah, and you'll see there I just went on my toes to intensify it a little bit, but it's good to play with both. But yeah, you're right, you can definitely elevate your hands to make it a little more challenging too. And remember, try just not to fidget. I'm not doing a great job because, you know, I'm kind of showing some different ways to explore the stretch, but it's definitely good to, you know, just not move and just hold those stretches and not fidget at all, and just see if you can maintain your composure. Perfect. Good job. Awesome. Now we're going to switch into the frog pose. So my legs are at 90 degrees right now, and I'm just going to kind of floss forwards and backwards and just open those hips a bit. I'm going to drop down to my elbows. This one can be, you know, this one can be very intense on the hips and the knees, so take it easy. If you need to get into child's pose, like a wide legs child's pose instead, you can definitely do that. And I'm actually going to try to get my chest to the ground. And in this position, I'm actually actively driving my hips towards the ground. So you'll notice my butt's in the air because my hips aren't super open. So I'm actually actively driving those hips towards the ground.
You may also want a bit of padding for the knees here too. I find sometimes, especially if you're not as flexible, it's just a lot of pressure on the knees. But as you open up, it gets less and less.
I just look ridiculous, just hugging the ground. Being one with the floor. Feels great though. Now we're kind of getting into a toe squat. So I'm up on my toes right now, and this is a great one for stretching the toes out. And also when I go down like that and just keep my heels barely off the ground, it's a good soleus stretch. So this is really going to help with your squat mobility. And of course you can stretch one leg at a time in this. You can keep the heel on the ground and lean over the ankle. That's also going to stretch the soleus and enable you to get, more flexibility in your Achilles tendon, which will enable you to get deeper in your squat. But for right now, we're doing two at once, and we're just kind of playing in the squatted position, and I'll kind of alternate between, my toes and then just hovering my heels off the ground.
It's also a great little calf workout.
Definitely. It's good balance too. Awesome. Now we're getting into seated shoulder extension. So you're going to feel this one in the ditches of your elbows and obviously in your shoulders. So I'm just creeping my hands back, and I'm not just trying to walk my hands back here when I get in position. I'm trying to actually get them close to each other. So I don't want my hands to just go off in opposite directions, like one off to the left and one off to the right. I'm trying to keep them relatively close together. And I'm just getting comfortable in the position and sinking in. I've got my feet in a butterfly position right there, actively driving my knees away and downwards just to kind of kill two birds with one stone. Open the hips up while I'm doing my shoulder extension.
And stretching in butterfly in this position I find a lot more challenging. When I'm in a regular butterfly position, I can get my knees right to the ground. But when I'm in shoulder extension and doing butterfly, I can't get them to the ground. Not very close at all. So it's a different type of butterfly stretch.
Definitely.
It's good to do both.
And remember, we're just showing you about a minute on each stretch here, but you should really, if you really want to make more flexibility gains, spend, 90 seconds or 2 minutes. This is capsule, so just take note of how I got into that. I've got my right leg out at 90 degrees, and then I'm shooting my right arm underneath my chest, keeping it straight just above the nipple line. So this is a great way to, open the hip, simultaneously stretch the shoulder, and then get a nice little spinal twist in there as well. And I'm kind of reaching forward with the other hand, or, if it's not comfortable, you can bring it in close like I did there. Just kind of showing you some different variations. So the capsule, this is a dirty one the first time you do it. It can be real tough, especially if you're sitting in it for 90 seconds or 2 minutes. It's a great way to, stretch out the delt.
Yeah, and I find the first 30 seconds of this one is not too challenging for me, but then after 30, after a minute, I really start to feel the benefits of it.
Definitely. And then we'll just switch over. But right before I switch to the other side, I'm just doing a lying belly twist here. So just a quick little twist to, counteract what I've just done. So I'm going to switch sides. So my left leg goes out at 90 degrees, and my left arm comes just above the nipple line, keeping the arm straight right across my chest, getting that nice shoulder stretch, the spinal twist, and also opening the hip on the left-hand side. So, the legs in this position are essentially in the frog position. So what we did earlier, just out at 90 degrees there.
And then the other one just back straight.
Yeah, exactly. That is the capsule. It's a dirty one. One of the more challenging ones in my opinion. And then once we finish, we're just going to, again, do the lying belly twist just to kind of counteract what we just did there. I'm creeping that hand out. That's going to make it, the maximal stretch if you walk that opposite hand out and just keep it straight. Awesome. Stay calm and breathe through it. Wicked. And then we'll get into that lying belly twist. So open the chest up and just step back. And that's a great stretch to spend some time in as well. But, in terms of the daily stretch routine, we'll just keep going through what we have here. And this is a great routine. Like, you could honestly do this. If you really are serious about making flexibility gains, you could do this every day. Like even, 30 seconds to a minute on each one. I'd recommend a minute minimum. But here we're in the standing straddle. I'm creeping my feet as far apart as I can. Then I'm going to lower down, and I'm going to lower my way back into a seated straddle. So this might not be an option for you, but it's definitely a good thing to practice. So now I'm going to get into my seated straddle. My feet are as wide as they can be. Bring my elbows down. I'm just going to find some movement in this stretch. I'm going to go to my left, grab onto it with both hands, grab my left foot there. And I'll switch over to my right, grab it with both hands. And then I'll go for both. Pointing the toes. And just getting deep.
And at the beginning, you may even struggle to be leaning forward at all. I know I've seen some people before who can barely even get their hands in front of themselves. They're kind of like leaning back. So just slowly progressing to the point where you can reach your hands in front of you.
Elevating the butt can be a great option.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, I'm just going to press my way up, work on my compression strength, and I'll come back up to standing. Fantastic. That is the daily stretch routine. Great job. I hope you enjoyed that full body stretch routine. I know every single time I do it, I feel amazing. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to share it, like, and subscribe if you want to be up to date with all of our content. And if you want some shorter form content, you can actually check us out on Instagram. All the information will be in the description of the video. Have a fantastic day and stay limber.